It's been over 7 decades since World War II, but many mysteries surrounding it still leave us baffled. From lost treasures to aircraft landing without their crew, these are the enigmas that will leave you scratching your head. So without making you wait anymore, let's start. Number 1. The Amber Room. In Prussia, an elegant chamber was built during the beginning of the 18th century. Known as the Amber Room, this chamber was decorated with gold leaves, mirrors, and walls made of amber. Eventually, it found a home in the Catherine Palace in St. Petersburg, Russia. Fast forward to World War II. On June 22, 1941, when the German forces invaded Russia, they took over the Catherine Palace. German troops dismantled the Amber Room and shipped it off to Königsberg. At the time, German authorities claimed they were reconstructing the room, even announcing in newspapers that it would soon be on display. But that never happened. The real mystery. After the war, the Amber Room vanished without a trace. Did it ever actually make it to Königsberg? Or was it moved to a secret location before Berlin fell? The fate of the Amber Room remains a mystery. Despite extensive searches, nothing has ever been found. Some experts think German soldiers might have stolen parts of the room during its transport in 1941, while others believe it is hidden in an underground bunker in Poland. The Russians grew impatient and eventually built a replica in the original location. This reconstruction, which took over 2 decades and involved meticulous research and detailed photos, is the closest thing we have to the real Amber Room. Yet, the question remains, is the original room hidden somewhere, or was it destroyed? The mystery lives on. Number 2. Foo Fighters. What comes to your mind when you hear Foo Fighters? Probably the legendary 90s rock band, right? But let me tell you, this term was used in World War II, way before the band existed, to describe something really odd: UFOs. It all started late in World War II when a night fighter squadron saw 8 to 10 bright orange lights off the left of their aircraft, flying at high speed. Surprisingly, they didn't appear on radar, whether in the plane or on the ground. The lights would suddenly disappear, only to reappear at a further distance. They continued to shine and move for several minutes before vanishing again. These lights were dubbed Foo Fighters, a nonsensical term from the popular cartoon Smokey Stover. Reports from other flights also described seeing these lights, sometimes in different colors, sometimes alone, and sometimes in groups, but never showing up on radar. Pilots who reported these sightings were assessed by psychiatrists and found to be sane and not hallucinating. So, what were these lights? At the time, Allied forces feared they might be high-tech German spy aircraft that could evade radar detection. Some historians now think they were just lights, but the extreme maneuverability of these lights makes that hard to believe. So were aliens watching humans destroy each other? Or was it some natural phenomenon we still haven't figured out? The mystery continues. Number 3. Who betrayed Anne Frank? One of the most well-known books ever is the diary of a teenage Jewish girl who dodged persecution for a while by hiding during World War II and sold millions of copies worldwide. The timeless tale of Anne Frank, which she told herself during the war, didn't have the delighted end that we all hoped for. After 2 years of hiding in a secret annex with her family and 4 other Jews, the Gestapo arrested them following an anonymous tip-off. But who turned in Anne Frank and the others? That's a question that still lingers, likely to remain unsolved forever. Some believe it was a neighbor who grew suspicious about illegal residents in the factory. This betrayer's postcard to the Amsterdam police led the Frank family to the camps, where all but Anne's father perished. He later published Anne's diary from their hiding period. Whoever this person was, it's believed they knew the family and held a grudge. Despite years of investigation and over 30 suspects, no answers have been found. In 2022, a new book called The Betrayal of Anne Frank, a cold case investigation, suggested the betrayer could have been another Jewish person, Arnold van den Berg, who did it to save his own family from deportation in camps. It's an interesting theory, but the mystery stays unsolved. Number 4. The Blutfahne. The red and white flag with a black swastika is a common sight in videos of German forces after Hitler came to power. But one flag stood out because it had bloodstains from fallen comrades during the beer hall putsch of 1923, a failed attempt by Hitler to overthrow the German government. Known as the Blutfahne, or blood flag, it became a symbol of sacrifice and martyrdom, often displayed during parades and held by Hitler himself. This most important flag vanished in the chaos following World War II, and its disappearance is one of the many mysteries of the war. The last time it was seen in public was in 1944, and it used to be kept in the Schutzstaffel headquarters. Did a soldier keep it as a trophy, or was it simply destroyed? Nobody knows. Maybe it's still out there, waiting to be discovered in some hidden spot. Number 5. The Hitler's Globe. In Charlie Chaplin's movie, The Great Dictator, there's a famous scene where he parodies Hitler, playing with a beach ball version of a globe that used to be in Hitler's office. This was one of 2 hand-carved globes made by the Columbus Globe for state and industry. When Russian troops took over Berlin, Hitler left this globe behind when he fled to an underground bunker. It was seen in the corner of the room in photos taken by the Russian army. After that picture, the trail went cold. Russia denies having the globe, but experts believe it was taken by Soviet counterintelligence forces, possibly delivered to Stalin or installed in the Soviet spy agency's headquarters. There's no evidence to confirm this, though. Over the years, many people have claimed they had the globe. Some of these were real globes used by Hitler at some point, but none have been identified as the one from his office. Number 6. The Big Stoop Crew. During World War II, an estimated 60,000 aircraft were lost. Many were taken down, some crashed, but a few just vanished without a trace. One such example is the B-24 bomber named Big Stoop, which took off from Florida with a crew of 7 U.S. Navy personnel on a mission to deliver secret military cargo to North Africa in June 1943. They never completed the mission and disappeared without a trace. Theories abound about their fate. Maybe they were captured by German forces, taken down by the Japanese, crashed into the sea, or perhaps the crew survived and started new lives somewhere unknown. But none of these theories can be proven, leaving the mystery of what happened to the Big Stoop crew unanswered. What became of them and their secret mission remains a mystery. Number 7. The Battle of Los Angeles. Just over 2 months after the attack on Pearl Harbor, in the early hours of February 25, U.S. military radar picked up an unidentified aircraft flying 120 miles west of Los Angeles. Authorities ordered a city-wide blackout, and the dark silence of the night was shattered by air raid sirens. People awoke to the sound and saw dozens of searchlights sweeping the sky for these mysterious aircraft, believed to be enemy planes. Troops were on high alert, and just after 3 a.m., soldiers in Santa Monica spotted an unidentified object in the sky and unleashed a barrage of anti-aircraft fire. The noise and chaos escalated as other stations joined in, and fear gripped the city. More than 1,400 rounds were fired before the all clear was given. It seemed like a superb defense by the mighty U.S. Army. But here's the kicker. There was no attack, no bombs were dropped, and what was spotted in the sky was likely a balloon-like UFO. The army suspected it was a Japanese aircraft, but Japan claimed they never flew any planes over any American city. Intriguingly, despite all that firing, no wreckage was ever found. To this day, no one really knows what they saw or what the army was firing at. Some say it was a false alarm born of fear, while conspiracy theorists suggest it might have been an alien aircraft. Whatever the truth, if it was aliens, we sure didn't give them a warm welcome. No wonder they haven't come back for a second visit yet. Number 8. Mysterious list. Auschwitz is now a museum and memorial and a horrifying icon of the Holocaust. Over 5 years, more than 1 million people, mostly Jews, lost their lives in this camp in Poland. More than 6 decades after the camp was liberated by the Soviet Union, a list was found in a hidden bunker. What's mysterious about this list is that it had the names of 17 people who appeared to be English soldiers, with ticks behind 8 of the 17 names. How did these soldiers end up in Auschwitz? Were they prisoners of war sent there? That sounds plausible, but some experts think they might have been part of a British SS division that fought alongside the German forces. And what do the ticks behind their names mean? It's an unsolved World War II mystery that surfaced decades after the war ended. Number 9. Missing ships. The USS Proteus AC-9 and USS Nereus AC-10 were sister ships commissioned in World War I. These colliers, or bulk cargo ships, transported coal, oil, supplies, and troops to other vessels during the war. They were crucial in World War I, and by the time World War II rolled around, these ships were Canadian property, still performing their duties. But both ships mysteriously vanished just 1 month apart in the late 1941. First, the Proteus was lost at sea in November 1941, with no German U-boat claiming responsibility. It's said the ship and her crew of 58 were lost somewhere in the Caribbean Sea, possibly foundered in heavy seas. Some theorists attribute this disappearance to the Bermuda Triangle. A few weeks later, in December 1941, the Nereus set off from the Virgin Islands with ore destined to make aluminum for Allied aircraft. This vessel also disappeared without a trace, with no U-boat claims. Interestingly, the Nereus was lost on the exact same route as their third sister ship, the Cyclops, which disappeared during World War I. Both ships vanished in the Bermuda Triangle while performing similar duties. Decades later, a propeller likely from the Proteus was found by a diver, but the wrecks of the other sisters remain unknown, adding to the enigma surrounding world wars and the Bermuda Triangle. Number 10. Raoul Wallenberg. Hungary had been an ally of Germany in World War II, but by 1944, the German forces were getting suspicious that Hungary might switch sides. So they occupied Hungary and put it under direct German control, quickly starting to send Jews to the camps. Enter Raoul Wallenberg, a Swedish diplomat and businessman appointed to save Hungarian Jews. Wallenberg rescued tens of thousands of Jews by providing them with Swedish passports and transporting them to safe houses under Swedish protection. He even put his own life at risk negotiating with the German forces. So, you would think this World War II hero would be treated with utmost respect when the war ended, right? Unfortunately, when the Red Army arrived in Hungary, they arrested Wallenberg on suspicion of espionage, and he was never seen alive again. The Soviet Union claimed he passed away of a heart attack in prison in 1947, but others believe he was executed in 1945, shortly after his arrest. Despite numerous investigations to uncover documents and eyewitness accounts, nothing concrete has come out. This unsolved mystery is heartbreaking. Wallenberg saved so many lives, only to vanish just as the war was ending, never getting to see the peace he helped create. Number 11. Peking Man. Looting valuables and taking down aircraft are expected in wars. but this mystery shows just how chaotic times were during that dark period of history. It all started with a tooth, but they eventually found a complete skull cap. This remarkable discovery offered a unique glimpse into human evolution. But when World War II broke out, the Chinese, fearing these fossils would be stolen as Japan invaded China, packed them up and sent them to a US Marine base for transport to America. Midway, they vanished. No one really knows what happened. Some believe the bones were lost at sea, while others suggest they are hidden somewhere in China. Number 12. The Ghost Plane. Just a day after the first anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor, radars picked up a plane circling the coast that wasn't theirs. Without wasting any time, 2 US planes took off to see who was snooping around. What they came across spooked them. The unidentified plane was a Curtiss P-40 Warhawk, a plane used by the US Air Force during the Pearl Harbor attack, but not since then. It appeared to be missing landing gear and was riddled with bullet holes. The pilot was slumped over the side and injured, though he did manage to get up and wave. Seconds later, the plane nosedived and crashed. When forces reached the crash site, they couldn't locate the pilot, and there was no information except for one last entry mentioning the plane taking off from a Philippine island 1,300 miles away. Where did the pilot go? And who was he? These questions remain unanswered. Experts say this report is a fictional story, similar to one written in the mid-1940s. But some conspiracy theorists believe there's more to it, suggesting that presenting this case as fiction is a potential cover-up and offering some wild theories about the pilot. Number 13. Rudolf Hess's flight. Rudolf Hess was one of the first 20 people to join the Nazi Party and a devoted follower of Hitler. When Hitler was released from a German prison, Hess became his personal secretary and confidant. By 1933, when Hitler became Chancellor of Germany, Hess was appointed second in command of the party. But during World War II, Hess did something that still confuses everyone. In 1941, Hess hopped on a plane alone, left a letter for Hitler saying he was going to make a peace deal with Britain, and flew to Scotland. Running out of fuel, he bailed out and landed on a farm, where he was captured by a farmer and taken into British custody. Did Hitler send him, and after his capture, they made up the letter story? It's odd for such a loyalist to do anything without Hitler knowing. Some theories even suggest Hess was tricked into coming to the UK under the pretense of peace talks, only to get him arrested for the rest of the war. Hess remained imprisoned for over 4 decades, before ultimately deciding he couldn't spend his life like that anymore. There are also theories that Prisoner 7 was actually Hess's doppelganger. From the reasons behind his flight to his life, Rudolf Hess's story remains a bizarre puzzle. Number 14. German U-boats. After the Germans surrendered to the Allies, all the German U-boats were seized, but a few mysteriously disappeared and then started showing up in Argentina. The first arrived 2 months after the German surrender. This U-530 German submarine wasn't carrying its deck gun, none of the crew had identification, and there were no ship logs or data about the ship's activity in the past 2 months. 2 months later, another German U-boat U-977 showed up on the Argentine coast. Both boats were handed over to the US, but their late arrivals have been suspicious from the start. Many believe the crew members were high-ranking officials who escaped, with some even suggesting Hitler himself might have escaped to Argentina. Number 15. Irwin RLs Gold. It's generally accepted that before the German forces surrendered, they hid their treasure and sent it away. A shipment of gold is said to have been shipped to Switzerland by the notorious General Irwin Rommel, popularly known as the Desert Fox. But no one has ever been able to locate RLs Gold after years of seeking. Many people think it's still hidden somewhere, while others believe Rommel was smart enough to spread his gold across different banks in different countries. Some say The treasure doesn't exist at all because the clues Rommel left behind are very few. Maybe that's what he wanted everyone to think, that it doesn't exist. Number 16. Ghost Blimp. On a clear morning on August 16, 1942, a US Navy blimp, L-8, took off from Treasure Island with 2 men aboard. It was just a routine surveillance mission, and almost 2 hours later, the crew reported spotting something in the ocean that might suggest a submarine. They said they were investigating it. Those were the last words from them. After that, they didn't respond to any calls. Eventually, a search plane went up and found L-8 flying normally over the Golden Gate Bridge. Assuming it was just a radio issue, they let it be. But soon after, the blimp crash landed on the coast. And the crew? Nowhere to be found. Where did they go? 8 decades later, the questions remain unanswered, though the theories are interesting. They range from alien abduction to the 2 men fighting over a woman and falling into the ocean. Or maybe they defected or got captured. With no leads, you can let your imagination run wild. Number 17. Secretive Polar Base. When the German forces invaded the Soviet Union, a small group of German troops made their way to Alexandra Island, just 600 miles shy of the North Pole. By 1942, the Germans had established a small, fully operational outpost, which they abandoned in 1944. Nearby islands had weather stations from the US, Russia, and Britain, so this wasn't entirely out of the ordinary. But the Germans weren't there just for weather data, they were on a different kind of mission. It's believed that the German forces, inspired by Norse mythology, were searching for relics and artifacts to support their philosophies. However, the Germans on the island contracted food poisoning after eating a polar bear with roundworms. In 2016, a very warm summer led Russian scientists to discover relics from the Germans who were there, along with more than 500 documents. Who knows what secrets about this secret Arctic base are yet to be uncovered? Number 18. Malbork's mass graves. Although many events from World War II are widely reported, there's so much that could have been lost or forgotten. One such forgotten chapter was reopened when construction workers found human remains. And not just a few, there were thousands. Authorities were contacted and around 2,000 skeletons were found. Carbon dating showed that these bodies belonged to German people who passed away just in the end days of the war. But what happened in this town remained a complete mystery for a while. Was there a mass execution by the Red Army? Did a plague hit the town? Later, forensics analysis revealed that many of the skeletons had bullet wounds and trauma to the head. They were completely looted and buried one over another in a mass grave. How this story remained untold and these people forgotten is a chilling reminder that who knows what else is buried in the haunting past of the World War II era. Number 19. The Gold Train. German forces had tons of relics, jewelry, and other treasures they took from the Jews in the places they invaded. In the final months of the war, when they realized they couldn't stop the incoming Red Army from the east, the Germans loaded all the treasure onto trains to hide it from the Russians. There's no documentation or record of such an activity. Well, why would they keep records of hiding stolen treasures? But witnesses mentioned that the train carried gold and weapons. It never made it to its destination, though. Instead, it's said to be hidden inside an old, abandoned coal mine. For years, people have been trying to locate the train, with the Polish government even offering rewards for its discovery. But so far, no luck. Or maybe someone already found it and decided to keep it all to themselves. Who knows? Number 20. Flight 19. Even though the Allies won the war, every side faced significant damage. Just 2 months after the official end of the war, when everyone's wounds were still fresh, the US had to deal with another tragedy that would blow your mind. One plane disappearing is something, But on December 5, 1945, 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers took off from Florida for a training exercise. Midway through the flight, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, the flight leader, started sending frantic messages that his compass was malfunctioning and they had no idea where they were. After these messages, all 5 planes just vanished, nowhere to be found. The oceans were searched, but no wreckage was ever discovered, losing all 5 planes in one go. Now deny the legend of the Bermuda Triangle all you want, but this happened right over it. How do you explain that? That brings our journey to an end, reminding us that wars leave an indelible mark of pain, trauma, and dark chapters in our history. Which one of these mysteries did you find the most puzzling? What would you like us to cover next? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you get notified each time I post just for you. Until next time, goodbye.